Hi, Chris Ford from chrisandjennyford.com here with part 3 of our Internet Basics course. How does your computer find websites on the internet? Well, every website has got a name, its domain name. That's what the thing you type into the address bar of your browser. Something like chrisandjennyford.com, trampolinesnow.com, cnn.com, whatever the domain name is that you type in. But every website also has an address. Its IP address. It's kind of like its street address on the internet. Just the same as you and I have a name and we have a street address. If you want to send a letter, you need to know my street address. If you want to communicate on the internet, you need to know something's internet protocol address or IP address. And what they look like is they look like a string of numbers. So for trampolinesnow.com, its IP address is 67.215.66.132. And all internet addresses look like that. There are a string of 4 numbers separated by dots, and each of the numbers will be a number between 0 and 255. You don't need to know why or how they're like that, but you'll recognize them when you see them. And every computer on the internet has an IP address like that. It's how all the computers are connected together, and if I send some information to an address, any IP address on the internet, I can know that it will get through the internet, and the internet will know the path to get from me to that computer with that address. And then the internet also has a phone book system where I can look up a name and find what its address is, just the same as we have a white pages or a yellow pages where I can look up your name and find your address. The internet has a system called Domain Name Service, or sometimes shortened to DNS or name servers, which is the phone book system for looking up addresses on the internet. So what happens when you register a domain? You go to your domain registrar, for example Riptuit Domains, and you register a domain and you configure for that domain what will be the name servers for your hosting account. So over here where you're hosting your website, there will be a name server, and that will be the name server that knows the address of your website. So this is called the authoritative server. It's the one that knows where you live. And so when you register a domain at your registrar, for example Riptuit Domains, you tell the internet phone book system that your hosting company knows your address. Then when you create that domain, you create the domain, and that adds an address book entry to the domain name server of your hosting company that says that Trampolines Now has the internet protocol address that we mentioned on the previous slide. Now, once I've done that, and I come to my browser, or you come to your browser, and you type trampolinesnow.com into your browser, what happens then? Well, your PC asks your internet service provider for the IP address of trampolinesnow.com. And then what your internet service provider does is it looks up in the internet phone book to find out the name server that knows the answer. And so that internet address book, the domain name server network, will tell it that my hosting company knows the answer. And so my ISP's name server will now talk to the hosting company's name server and say, please tell me the address for Trampolines Now, and the hosting company domain name server will send back an answer that is the address. And now your computer can now connect directly to the web server using the address it got back. Now obviously that doesn't happen every single time. At each point along the way, each of those servers can remember the answer. So the next time you connect, your computer doesn't need to go through that process again. It knows the address of Trampolines Now. It has it in its own little private address book and will use it directly. And that's how you connect to websites. So now on to the next step.